Alright, so here's a video for help on Code High School 7.2, the exercises. The first one's not hard. I mean, you're supposed to add 5 numbers, 1 through 5, to an array list, and then print out the first element. But I wanted to show you, this is kind of the standard way to do it, right? This would be the old way. But we have a new way to do it. So, good practice, because now that we have what's it called? For loops, we should be able to do this with for loop way. So we're going to say for I equals int I equals 0 to I less than 5, right? I plus plus. Ooh, I did a capital I. Okay, so we can do a for loop, and this can be extended as big as you want. You can just say numbers dot add, and then you could say I plus 1. I'll just do I and then change this to a 1. We start at 1 and we're less than or equal to 5. And we can just add each one each time. And I don't know, that should work, right? Let's try it out. Oh, it didn't like that. What did I forget? Oh, comma here. Okay. Yeah, see, that works. Cool. All right, so for this case, we have make an array list of only even numbers. So notice something else I didn't point out earlier, but you have to import Java util array list every time to be able to use array list, because it's kind of like an import thing, kind of like math.random and stuff like that. Public class evens, and then you're going to print the array evens. Here's the method. So it says don't alter this method, it'll print it. So, but I do want you to look at it. So it's going to say array, and then this is a for each loop, which is a good review. You have to say what type of data. This is called name. For each name in array, print the name. So it's got a thing there, but you got to build this array. So, you got to first you should probably create an array object. And then, I think we should name it, I don't know, whatever you want to name it. You should make it an integer array object, array list. It doesn't matter what you name it. Oh, it does, evens. Okay, and then you need a loop to add just the even numbers from 2 to 100. Now there's an easy way and a hard way. If you want the hard way, you can just do a for loop for all the numbers 1 through 100 and then use an if statement to determine if they're even or not. Or you could use the fact that a regular for loop, unlike this for each loop, a regular for loop can go up by however much you want. So if you want the even numbers and you're starting at 2, you can use the increment on your for loop to make it do just that. Cool. So that shouldn't be too hard for you either. Okay, so this one is actually a little better. This is more challenging. So we're going to use the existing student class here that has a constructor, a getter, and a print class list method, which is kind of like a two-string method, except you got to actually say it. And then you can see they build students here. So you're supposed to create a static array list called class list that adds a student to class list whenever a new student is created. So one thing you got to do here is up at the top, you got to be careful. If you did private static, it can only be used in the student class. But you see where students are being created are out here. So we need to make this public static. Static means it's shared between all of them. So public static, this is array list, right? And what type of items goes in here? So your array list will be student, right? So I think that's right. And this would be called class list. Ooh. And I think we have to create the new one right away. Oops, let me shrink this down. There we go. So I think that should work. I didn't know if you should do this and then on a different line create the new array list, but you might as well declare it and create it at the same time. It's not going to keep doing it over and over again, it just will at the beginning. So it's a safe move. Okay, so you make the new array list, and then it should add a student every time someone is made, when a new student is created. And if you think about it, where a new student's created, in the constructor, right? So in here in the constructor, not only do you want to have their name and grade, but you also want to add to the class list. So you'll say class list dot add, and then you got to figure out, like, how do I add a student to this list, right? This is the trickiest part. We haven't done this before. Well, we have done it before, but we haven't done it often, is a better way to say it. So totally understandable if you missed it. You're like, what do I want to add? I want to add this student that's being created, which is crazy. How do you add this student? I know how to talk about this dot name and this dot grade. Well, this is the one time. I don't do this often, but add the current student to a list. So an array list. So you're going to say, okay, I'm going to do class list.add, and when I put this in here, it actually grabs the object you're creating right here, and adds that to the class list, which is kind of cool. This is a neat use of this. We usually use this.name as an object, but if you actually want to add the object to a list, you can literally just say add this. Then you can check if this works and see if it does what it's supposed to do. Maybe run the code, see how it runs. And remember, it's running the code from, oops, what's it mad about? Oh shoot, in my constructor here, yep, I didn't make this a method. That's a common mistake. Let me try that again. Because the constructor for an array list, yeah, there it is. So not only, if we go back here, did it make it, and our class list started out as empty, but now when it calls this print class list item, from down here, it's printing items from class list. So if anything shows up, then what I just did up here is working. So pretty cool, right? Now we got an even cooler one where you got to make a couple methods, and they got to be some static methods, because if you notice, these methods are called on just student. Now, could you call them on Alan, Kevin, and Annie? Sure can. So basically, we got to write one that's get last student that returns the name of the last student in your class list array. So we go over here, and we're going to add some methods here. And if they're static, you got to say public static and get last student. Okay, so we're going to just return. Oh, wait. public static string, right? Because we're going to return a string that is their name. So first we have to find the last student in the list, array list. Okay, and then we have to return their name. Okay, so we got to do two things. One, think about what the last student would be. So we're definitely going to use the figure out the index of them. Okay, so if you think about it, we have this array list called class list, and if you use wait, let's see if anything was called in here. Nope, just get last student. So we could do class list dot size, and that would tell us the size, but I want the last student, which would be the index of it. So I want to not grab size, but -1, and that would be the position of the last student, but I want to return their name. I'm going to do this all in the same one. Why not? Let's be efficient. Okay, so we're going to return. I'm going to return. So we have to get the name. So to get the name, we have to use the getName method. Okay, so I have to use the get method, and then I have to use the getName method. So we're going to get the position. So this will get the position, okay, and then it's grabbing a student object. It's grabbing a student object, and then we got to get the name. Whew, that was a crazy one. That is neat. So we did classlist.get. That's a method you should know. And you grab the position, which is your size -1 to get the very last one. And then you use the getName method. It's a pretty cool thing. Let's see. Where's the getName? There it is. Okay, yep. Awesome. Okay, and then I think this is pretty easy, so we'll let you do that one. And then get students, pretty easy. The hard one is add student, number 3. So I'll look at that real quick. Okay, so now we're going to do number 3, which is more involved than 1 and 2 and 4. So add student just adds it. Doesn't seem to return anything. So public static void add student, and then int index. So this uses the little better version of add, where you control where it goes. Okay, so we're going to add a student with an index and a student. Okay, and then so we want to add a student to a particular index. Yeah, and here's what's not good is if you remember back to our constructor, automatically, where was it? Here. This added it to the very end. So if you put it in a specific position in here, the first part of this is pretty easy. You're going to say classlist.add, and you're going to use the index comma student. Okay, and then the problem with that is it slaps one on the back when you create this new student. So you need to classlist dot remove the very last person added, which would be the class list dot size -1 to get the last person. And then test that out, see if it works for you. Hopefully that helps out. That was a little weird, where you add a new student and take them away.